We're live. Brilliant. Okay, it looks like I'm given a thumbs up to go ahead. Okay, awesome. A very good afternoon to everybody else who's listening in. It's always an interesting introduction every time to give, not knowing how many people have actually tuned in and where one is in the rest of the world. So very good afternoon, a very, very good warm afternoon, in fact, from sunny Perth, Western Australia. My name is Dharmindher Singh. I'm one of the migration agents here with the Aussizz Group in the Canningvale branch. So today, it's going to be interesting. Today we're going to talk about love. No, I'm not a marriage counselor, not one of those. But today we're going to talk about partner visas. We're going to talk about the stuff that's become very popular, which is people who've applied for their own respective visas. And then if they've gone to a PR situation and then they want to sponsor someone, or conversely, could be someone who just wants to put an out and out direct application because they are here or as a PR or a citizen, and then they want to sponsor someone, or vice versa. It could be yourself if you are in a situation where you, for whatever various circumstances presents itself, you may be a student mostly, or if you're a visitor of any kind, and then you do want to do a partner application. So you notice I say if you're from here, but then there's the other element of it at the same time, which we're going to talk about, is if you are offshore and you want to launch a partner application. We'll talk about that as well. So yes, today's session is all about that. I say this with folded sleeves because I know I'm going to be prepared for questions from people who generally tune in and they see or they know of this presentation or they know of me. They're going to ask questions about, general skill migration or something like that. So my hands are clasped, two hands, and I'll tell you if it's to do with that. So bear in mind, whole of those questions. I know they are popular. However, an equally popular topic today is about partner visas. So let's talk about that. Let's get straight into that. I've prepared some things here on my notepad down here, and I'll refer to some as I go along. So anyone who basically is in a position to launch an application for a partner application, they are split into what I want to term today. Either you are doing an offshore application, which falls under a number called 309. And if it's an onshore application, it's a partner application, of course, we're talking about, then it becomes an 820. So these numbers are going to be used quite regularly in what I'm going to be saying after a while. So I like the fact that there'll be some questions coming up on my right-hand side that I can see. I'm very excited to talk about this. And I will literally, I'm in the mood. I really am in the mood. I'll answer as many questions as I can on partner applications. And if I have some time, I'll look at some of the other ones. But partner is what I'm going to talk about because it's important. Okay, so now let's, without any further ado, for those who have joined in, and I think I hear about 40, 50 people. Brilliant. I'm very excited. So let's talk about the common question asked most of the time in any of my consultations is this: how can I bring my partner here quickly? Not so much so cheaply, cheaply not in the sense of cheaply, but in the cost, but fast. Everybody wants it fast. Everybody says, I'm a family pressure, this and that. They're asking me, my relationship is this and that. How fast can I bring my partner here? So when that happens, remember one thing. I'm going to use a lot of my hands. I just realized looking at myself. So what's going to happen is a partner application is usually 2 stages, but it's one application. Current processing time on the department website says that for both applications, if it's the first stage, it can take about 20 months, upon which once everything is okay, they give you permission to apply for the second stage. Then that takes about 10 months. That's published, prescribed Department of Immigration's processing time. Same applies for whether it's offshore or onshore, just remember that. If you know that much, just understand this. If you are in a situation, let's come straight to the chase. If both you and your partner are already here in Australia and you want to launch an application, you will do an onshore application, the 820. Now you need to go, you just can't say, oh, look, I'm just going to launch. You have to go through a certain process. So you probably would have to register your marriage first, and without going into details of some different cultures and races and all that, you just need to register a marriage. What is deemed as registered and acceptable and permissible in Australia. So you have your marriage certificate. You would also obviously at the same time need to do a notice of intention of marriage. You just go and marry. So you get a marriage celebrant, you get that sorted. That can take sometimes a month, but if you can get a marriage celebrant who is ready to go through this in a faster process, 2-3 weeks, I've done that before. You get that, you need that in order to then launch the application. Now, a lot of scenarios are in my head. A lot of them are either a student, or if they're not a student, they are on a work visa, or they could be on any visa that firstly allows them to launch the application down here to remain whilst they are on a bridging visa. So when you launch an application, whatever visa that you are on, you get what is called a bridging visa. And a partner visa onshore is what can generate the all-important thing. I'm going to get this question asked again, but if you don't, I will keep reminding my audience today. When you launch an application onshore, you get what is called a bridging visa. Now, a bridging visa is exactly that. It's brilliant. If it's a partner application, there is a permanent part component to it. So when you launch, let's assume you are on a visitor visa for example, okay? If you're on a visitor visa, you are onshore, you launch this. Before your visitor visa finishes, you get what is called a bridging visa. You can stay on here. Bridging student visa ends. Bridging visa becomes active. You get Medicare, you work until the first stage is decided. Clear? Thumbs up? I mean, obviously I'm giving myself thumbs up, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. So if you have a question about that, you can ask me that later. Just remember that. You have a series of documents to prove, obviously, relationship, how long and whatnot. And I notice I said that marriage straight away. I should also clarify. So you can launch a visa, partner visa on the basis of marriage, if you are married, or if in some cases you have a long distance relationship or long running relationship, then you need to demonstrate the basis of your application on de facto. De facto means the department wants to see not just simple things like, come on, you are a very intelligent audience down here. A lot of the time people say, oh, I've Googled this or I've searched this and I understand that I just need to show a bank account that we are together or we live together. But the living together part, by law, for de facto evidence, they want to see 12 months. Now, for whatever various reasons, if you don't have 12 months, but if you can demonstrate that your circumstances were such that did not allow you to be, could be various things. You were both here, but you've known each other. One of you was a FIFO worker. You live together, but you're not physically domiciled together, or religious reasons, your family didn't allow you to because you were an Orthodox practicing whatever the religion might be. So you can justify that, not just say it goes, it works. I mean, there's ways how you can go about it, is what I'm trying to say to you. So the relationship has to be demonstrated, verified, obviously, documents, all those forms, 40, 47, SB, all forms. I don't want to bore you to death with all those things because you already know that. What I want to come back to is who and how shall I phrase this? This is important. So if you have decided that it's going to be an onshore application, then you have to decide either on the basis of marriage or de facto. You've got to make that distinct decision very quickly, because both of them, seemingly there's no faster way to get a visa just because, oh, if I get married, therefore I think my visa is going to be granted earlier. No, there's no such thing. It's how you're going to prove the four very wonderful things that they want to see. It's a genuine, ongoing relationship. I'll talk about that later. Genuine, ongoing relationship, in order for them to establish, them being the Department of Immigration, to then finally establish that, yes, this is going on. Like a normal relationship, like a marriage basis. If it's a marriage basis, then I'll talk about the four pillars. what are the 4 pillars that they want to see. Well, I'll point that to you shortly. Or conversely, then if you so the bridging visa you get keeps you here, you work until a decision is made. So if the decision, in some cases, I've lost some cases where, goodness me, brilliantly, obviously the client's very happy. Both stages, the 820 and the 801, were actually granted in less than 7 months. Hand on my heart, I can actually say this: bizarre, brilliant. Why? Because firstly, it was a decision-ready application. The strength of what you give, the information that you rely on, you're just not filling out forms. I get them to do personal statements. I'll get the form 888s to be checked. Form 888s, maybe not just from 2 people. I choose 4. I don't care. I give a little bit more. Relationship, how have you guys known? Your inner circle, people of your friends, your family, and your work colleagues. Who else knows? What is your social media presence as a couple? How do you guys go? They want to see all of these things. Things like, what are the other documents besides just showing that you've got a bank account and you've known each other, and this is your social, your WhatsApp media correspondence or something like that. The Department of Immigration and what's available right now, pretty clued on. There's a lot of avenues for you to demonstrate that you guys are together. Previously, in the last 2-3 years, because of COVID, people couldn't travel overseas. Now, if you've taken holidays together, if you've been to parties, you've been to ceremonies, you've been to any occasions, both good and bad, use that. If you've done any, maybe this is the time to just refer to a couple of things here. Let me just show you here. What was I talking about? Here. Okay. I'll refer to this in a second. Okay, so remember what I said to you, that so if you can demonstrate that you let's come back to this here. Where am I? Yeah. So if you can demonstrate onshore, you're already clear about that. That's good. So what if you are offshore? Now, if you're offshore, meaning one of you who is either a permanent resident or a citizen, you would have to either demonstrate that you've already married. Now, if you have to go offshore, you married, but the main applicant has to be offshore. So when you're offshore, when you launch this application, firstly, you don't get a bridging visa, okay, because you're not onshore. But there's ways around it. There's ways around it, which I will probably not tell you on air, but nothing dodgy or anything like that, but just a little bit more technical to get into how they can come on board, still come in, and then later on, that's a way to describe that, but lessons will not get deviated from that. So if you are either de facto or married, you can still launch an offshore application, but offshore application, the 309 does not generate a bridging visa because by virtue of the fact that you're not onshore. That's pretty straightforward. Now, that becomes a problem for a lot of them, isn't it? Because then here you are the person who has sponsored, but your partner can't join you, and you don't know how long that's going to take. Some cases it can take about 1.5 years. So that's interesting. You can the person can still perhaps apply for a visitor visa and visit you while that's going on, if that's granted, by the way. If you can provide information that she is a genuine, or the person is a genuine visitor, or then it becomes an expensive exercise that you got to travel anywhere in the world, you meet and you be with this person until the grant is given. Safest thing to do in that situation is this: if you have set your mind that you want to do either one of them, offshore or onshore, you notice I haven't talked about prospective partner visa, which I'm not really a fan of for some reason, because I've noticed from personal experience, prospective partner visa just takes a very long time to process for some reason. In prospective partners, for those people who are actually really interested in, just to highlight that, because there is a visa, you can apply. You must have met that partner in person, and at least within the last 12 months, and have known the person, the word example that they use. And then when granted, obviously you have to be offshore. When granted, you have to enter the country, and you have about 9 months upon the grant to get married. You can be married here or overseas or anything, but then you can launch the application on that basis. So just remember that. So if anyone actually is considering a prospective partner visa, and if you had a question, you can email me separately, which you will get in my email address shortly, and then we can talk about that. So let's come back to some questions are popping up there. Brilliant. I don't know why somebody's asking me certificate 3 and 4 hospitality. Oh my God, the first question I see on my right is about hospitality. I'm not even going to be distracted by that. So let's come back to what I'm talking about. So if you are in a situation to launch a partner visa, my suggestion to you is this. Try to get your partner to apply a visitor visa, get a visitor visa, enter the country. Preferably, you know how visitor visas all attract conditions like no work, maximum study of 3 months, and the all-important thing, the 8503 condition called no further stay, which defeats the purpose of you then trying to be onshore and trying to launch that application. So that's not going to be fun. So if you apply for a partner visa, if you did not have that condition of no further stay, brilliant. The person comes down here, you have 3 months to do the notice of intention of marriage, or if you want to go down the path of the de facto, if you can have all the evidences that I'm talking about, you launch that, and you will get a bridging visa, and then that visitor visa, presuming that's the visa that you came under, finishes, then the bridging visa kicks in for that 820 on the basis of de facto or partner. Medicare, you can work until the first stage is decided. Pretty healthy, pretty good. So that's all win-win. And whilst on that, if you need to travel, you apply a bridging visa A, you travel and you come back. Brilliant. Is that clear enough, right? Now, once that is granted, that stage, then the department will invite you through an email that says, all right, you met this, that, the other. You can now are invited to apply for the second stage, which is the permanent part of it, which is the really best part of it. When you apply, after a certain period of time, depending on how fast and what you will provide, your PR is granted. That's precisely where I want to talk about what are the things that you've got to demonstrate. So one of the things that they want to see is the decision maker. Okay, the decision maker, whoever this person might be, is a delegate of the Department of Immigration. So they want to see, they need to be satisfied that you and your spouse, firstly, are definitely married under Australian law. And Australian law is particularly, very clear at the same time, that you have had, or you do have, a mutual commitment, or reading up from there, a shared life as a married couple to the exclusion of all others. And that's very, very particular. Have a relationship that is genuine and continuing, live together, or do not live separately apart on a permanent basis. Just remember that, okay? So when they talk about that, what they also say that you have to continue providing evidence of being married. See if you're married, or if you're living together, you're going to continue doing that. So now what the decision maker usually sees is they want to see what were some of the circumstances that came into place. Some of the things they want to look at is the financial aspects of the relationship, the nature of the household, the social aspects of the relationship, and last but not least, the nature of commitment that you have to each other. Okay, so I'm going to go into that because I think this is important. A lot of people get this confusion. Why? Because they've heard it from a friend, or God forbid, some people sit in front of me and they tell me, oh, I saw a TikTok, and the TikTok was telling me, I'm like, stop. Ain't talking about TikTok here. This is about $8,100, which is a non-refundable fees from the Department of Immigration. Not going down TikTok to tell you what you need to do. You need to listen to a little bit more different and certified, registered talk. Okay, so let's talk about that. So financial aspects of the relationship, let's talk about that. So they were looking at any joint ownership of real estate or of any major assets, any joint liabilities, as you would imagine. They want to see things like if you bought a car, if you basically buy a house, or if you bought anything that seemingly have and joint ownership of that, from a financial side of things. They want to see that. They want to see to what extent do you pool your financial resources together. Okay, especially if you're talking about major financial decisions, very important. Now, they want to see whether are there any legal obligation in respect to each other. They want to see where you and your spouse are. They want to know your day-to-day stuff. How do you split your household expenses? Who does what and with what money, and with which account does it go into? That's like what I think married people or people living together really tend to do. and the department bases it on that, okay? So let me read on a little bit further. So they want to see provide evidence of the nature of your household. So now let's talk about that. Nature of the household. What does that mean? So any joint responsibility to care and support of children, if you have any. So let's speak about that. So if you could be in a de facto or you could be in a marriage situation, but if you got a child, usually it's a thumbs up. Department looks at that as the most biggest commitment to a relationship at the same time. So you can show that, child is studying and how long and where and how both before or after marriage, all that thing counts. So they want to see all of those things at the same time. Then they want to look at your living arrangements in your household, how and where do you guys live, and you share, you are leasing, you're living with extended family. What is the arrangement? They want to see all of that. They want to see what the responsibility for housework. It becomes interesting, right? Housework doesn't have to be, the partner being the female cooking all the time. If that is the case, not stereotyping. It could be the guy is a chef. He cooks all the time and she works. So be it. Just put it down in that sense. Who does the laundry? Who does the cooking? Who does whatever that happens in the household? They want to see that kind of stuff. This can all be demonstrated, by the way, from personal statements, which I get my clients to do. I get the partner to do one, and the other, and the guy and the girl, they will do their own respective statements. And these are the kind of stuff that I make them highlight. I also get statements from parents. Usually it's a good one, or people within the significant family members if they don't have parents, or someone else to highlight that, because that's usually a very strong indication that the union is blessed. Providing evidence of social aspects of your relationship. Let's talk about that. Now, whether you and your spouse represent yourself as being married, or you guys are a couple, when you go out, when you see each other, when you're, I don't know. I've seen cases where they've lodged and everything is okay, and then suddenly you just kind of go in and you say, hey, hang on, how come in your social media there's no mention of your partner? Like, what's going on? And the department like, Then they start asking, they start quizzing. So if you are together, every part of your social relationships, from your work crew, from your friends, from your family, they all need to know that yes, you are a couple, because that's what they want to see. I've already mentioned statements from family and friends about the nature of a relationship. Very strong point. Any basis on which you and your spouse plan to undertake joint social activities. So if you got holidays planned, you got anniversaries to go to, you got engagements to attend. Social, brilliant. Where do you go? You bought tickets together. Keep those ticket tabs, your boarding passes, your hotel accommodations. Who paid for what? All of this. Believe me, people might think that's not important. I get my clients to put everything down. No problems. Very, very positive results, right? Then we're looking at the nature of commitment to each other. So let's talk about that. Now, the nature of commitment comes into play in a very big way. The department wants to know, how long have you all known each other? So if you suddenly say you met after a stormy night, after a very beautiful dance from the casino or the Mustang Bar, or you're listening to my good friend Mark, jamming away over there, you might be thinking, right, you fell in love, and then the next day you decide to get married. Seriously? You can get married. Nothing is stopping you from there. But they want to know how. So these are the things that really come into play, right? So the duration of the relationship is important. The length of time that you and your spouse have lived together, equally important. And then we're looking at the degree of companionship, both emotional support that you draw from each other. Now, I think you can share a lot of things. And some of my clients use this as a very strong tool to talk about, how they may have dealt with a loss of a pet, believe me, or family member, proofs of evidence of that at the same time, and how they guys support each other and through their little, challenges and the journeys and all that. All these factor in, okay? Last but not least, whether you and your spouse see the relationship as a long-term one. You would, though, because that's what you're doing for this. You would have written statements. You would have indicated that that's what you're doing. And then if you can provide all that information, then you're good. Because that is what they would want to see. How long have I been talking? 28 minutes? Okay, maybe I can just take a little sip of water. Try to look at some of the questions and see what are we looking at? What are we looking at? Let's see. So far, so good, yeah? Allowed to have a sip of water. It's pretty hot outside, not inside though. I like doing this live stuff. People can see what I'm doing at the same time. So let's see. Who have I got? J. Krishna Shah. Oh Lord, what is this? He's asking me about. Goodness me, he's from Bhopal. He's asking me about updated CV, IELTS faculty. It's over my head. 22 experience of teaching subject, English grammar. J. Krishna, sorry, wrong platform, wrong medium. You can put me an email. I can answer your question because that's not what I want to talk about. What have you got? Again, J. Krishna is just monopolized the first 4 questions. Can't answer your question, J. Krishna. I'm sorry. Indra, I don't know what Indra is asking me. Virat is asking me something. Vishnu is asking me a question about certificate 3 and 4, diploma of hospitality. Has anyone got a condition about partner visa? No. Oh my God. Oh Lord, what's going on here? So what if visiting visas has no further stay condition? Okay, let's talk about that first. What if a visiting visa has no further stay condition? And that's brilliant, isn't it? So basically what it just meant is MARN, if I may use that as your middle name. So if you don't have a no further stay condition, that basically allows you a lot of freedom to choose some of the visas that may be at your disposal. So if you're going to do a general student visa or what we're talking about, which is a partner visa, then well and good. So you can do that. So you can actually apply that visa because it lets you stay down here. That's what it means. What does it say? What if the visiting visa has a no further stay condition? That's brilliant. So you can stay here, lodge, get a bridging visa, and then carry on living happily ever after. Basically, that's what it means. Now, Said, brilliant. Said Hassan. Thank you for actually asking a partner visa application sort of a question. He says, I've been granted an 801 through Aussizz Group. Many thanks to the Sydney squad. Nice, brilliant. Happy for you, my friend. It's a good story to have. And then the rest of it is probably my information. Don't know what Alvin is going on about. Stop ripping people. I'm not even going to go on about that. I think I've been doing this for 14 years. If I've been doing this for 14 years, chances are I've been doing the right thing. So if you have a question, for whatever reasons, if it cannot be answered online because you have a specific question, email me. I should probably take more than a week and a half or 2 to definitely come back to you and let you know without sort of looking into some pressing issue. Aside from that, Shams Ali Mehta sounds like a very familiar. Oh, Shams, I knew someone called Shams before. Okay, if main candidate is on a temporary visa, so how long the spouse visa application takes time to grant approximately? Hang on. So if on a TR and you're lodging a spouse application, so I'm assuming one of you is a permanent resident or PR, or a citizen, and your partner is on a temporary visa, and then you launch a partner application, if that's what I understand you saying. It doesn't really matter though what kind of visa they've held. It's to do with everything that I've just mentioned just now. The amount of information that you can actually provide to the case officer to show that it's a genuine, ongoing relationship. All those aspects I told you about, the day-to-day living stuff, the social aspect, the financial aspect, the nature of your household. Now, that's what determines, Shams, how fast they look into granting you that application, the grant of the visa. Because a lot of them just think, I'll just put, the bare minimum information because technically speaking, I've known each other. Some family and friends know. It's not enough because these days, people are getting very imaginative and there's a lot of information to put towards a partner application. So if you can have that, you can consolidate that information, just makes the job of a case officer that much more easier and faster to grant you that visa. So I hope that sort of clarifies that. Now, still trying to see if I can rattle through a couple of stuff that's to do with partner application. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. Sometimes people are too busy looking for a partner because they can't tune in right now. So maybe if you find a partner and if you had a question and if you wanted something quite specifically answered, I'm more than happy to answer that. But having said that, I want to see maybe Janvi, I'm sure you're listening at the background. Maybe we have, what have we got? I'm just scrolling through the questions here. They have my email address. Yeah, that's cool. They can get in touch with me, I suppose. I don't know what sort of engagement it's out there, but So let's talk about, what if you get a refusal? Let's say you get a refusal for either one of them. Now, obviously, if you're a partner down here and your application has been lodged, and if you're onshore, you get a bridging visa and all of that, a refusal of any kind will be followed by some crazy long reply from the case officer to say this and that, the other, why you didn't provide or what you did wasn't good enough, or the department has gotten adverse information that the relationship has broken down, but you've not told them, or could be a whole host of things. Most of the times, you will have avenues for applying for an AAT, which is review. So you can review, pay the AAT $3,000, pay the agent whatever the fees the agent charges you if you want to go through that path. Then you wait, then you fight, then you claim that this and that, provided that you are still in a relationship. That means then the AAT is very independent from the Department of Immigration, and it independently will look and assess the information that they have on hand. And if any new material information comes to light, you can share that with the AAT, and they will take that into consideration. And within reason, if you are still obviously in a relationship and everything else is going on, that's fine. Now, for whatever various reason, let's be serious for a second now, not that we were not before. So if it's broken down because some factors were beyond your control, you're psychologically abused, you're, God forbid, you're physically abused, but you can, and even before it's refused, by the way, or before the decision is made, you can demonstrate that if you have genuinely been the receiving end on the wrong end of the receiving end of this sort of treatment. So if you let the department know, the department can make a decision in your favor. The department can say that, look, you got a pretty crazy ass partner who's not really good enough, but since this has happened to you and you've documented that and they can prove and vouch, you still get your partner application visa granted. I'm not even joking. So if, again, not many can see these things happen. Relationships are funny things at the same time. And if you are in that situation and if you're not certain about what to go about it, let me know. Most of the time, they're pretty straightforward. They want to know things like, what do you guys do? Do you all do things together? Do you pay your tax? And do you mention your partner in the tax claims at the same time if you're from here? I like that question all the time. So there's a lot of things to go about that. I'm just looking at a question somewhere. It says, Shams has come back. Shams has mentioned that, I meant the appointment of subsequent visa. Oh, okay. Subsequent visa is a crazy situation because that's not a partner application. You're just adding yourself onto your TR 485. Subsequent entrant takes a hell of a long time. I've had cases that they've had to wait for more than a year, which is just ridiculous. And then it's granted, but in some cases it can be granted within 4 to 7 months. So if you've been waiting for a long time, you can write to the department and plead and beg and what have you and see whether they listen to you. Now, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Maybe take a little early break, seeing that some of them are going to tune into this perhaps later at another time. They might look into that. Or we can, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it at that. But all the other little questions, then if you had something, still you'll get some, you have my details down there. You can get in touch with me. You can perhaps ask me a particular question to do with your situation, and I'm more than happy to look in that. Without further ado, I shall take leave and wish you all well. Yeah, have a nice day. This is Dharmindher Singh signing off from the Aussizz Canningville branch. Let's leave this room. Janvi, you're going to do that.